Upadeśāmṛta. Now we are in Bhaktya-loka. Okay. The person who has attained faith, where is that? Okay, just give me a minute. Okay, here. The person who has attained faith is naturally disgusted with material activities. Okay, this is the basis. This is Lord Krishna speaking to Uddhava. I will read out the translation of this. Having awakened faith in the narrations of my glories, being disgusted with all material activities, knowing that all sense gratification leads to misery, but still being unable to renounce all sense enjoyment, my devotee should remain happy and worship me with great faith and conviction. Even though he is sometimes engaged in sense enjoyment, my devotee knows that all sense gratification leads to a miserable result and he sincerely repents such activities. Karma arises from lust, jnana arises from indifference, and bhakti arises from faith in the Supreme Lord. So here faith refers to unbreakable faith. The person who has attained faith is naturally disgusted with material activities. He accepts without attachment only those activities that are favorable for increasing his faith in the Lord. Without the material body, one cannot cultivate devotional service. So there is no benefit if one renounces the activities that are needed to maintain the physical body, thinking them to be the source of misery and lust. The fruits of those activities, which are the source of misery for others, are therefore enjoyed by the devotees, who condemn them as insignificant. They worship Krishna with devotion and firm faith while enjoying the fruits of their work as they fulfill the necessities of life. Those who enjoy the results of material activities with ardent affection are called attached, asakta. Those who neglect the results of karma but accept only what is favorable to devotional service are called unattached, anasakta. Although they are unattached to material activity, they work enthusiastically in devotional life. So the idea is that those who are serious practitioners of Krishna consciousness, they are unattached to material endeavors. They just go through the motions basically, but they don't really expect so much of material benefit. Rather, they work enthusiastically in devotional life in order to progress in Krishna consciousness. The process of advancement for the practitioner of devotion service is stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam as follows. Proktena bhakti yogena bhajato ma sakrinmane kamam hridaya nashyanti sarve mai hridisthite bhedyate hridaya grantash shityante sarva samshaya shiyante chasya karmani mai drishte khilatmani Nirapeksham param prahu nishvreyasam analpakam asma nirashisho bhaktir nirapekshasya me bhavet. When an intelligent person engages constantly in worshipping me through loving devotion service, as described by me, his heart becomes firmly situated in me. Thus all material desires within the heart are destroyed. The knot in the heart is pierced. All misgivings are cut to pieces. And the chain of fruitive actions is terminated when I am seen as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is said that complete detachment is the highest stage of freedom. Therefore, one who has no personal desire and does not pursue personal rewards can achieve loving devotion service unto me. This is the method. The purpose is this. It is useless trying independently to destroy ignorance and lust in the heart. But ignorance, lust, fruitive activities, all doubts and material bondage are destroyed by the mercy of the Lord in the course of cultivating devotional service. Bhakti Anushilana, cultivating devotional service. This is an expression that we get from Prabhupada. That we cultivate devotional service. We cause devotional service to grow. Originally, this is coming from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's explanation to Rupa Goswami about cultivating the creeper of bhakti. The endeavor of karmis and jnanis does not yield such results, meaning the destruction of ignorance, lust, fruitive activities, all doubts and material bondage. Therefore, when one becomes neutral by giving up other desires and hopes, he attains pure devotional service to Krishna. We should not lose enthusiasm because we have no strength to destroy the reactions of karma. In the very beginning of devotional service, the sadhaka must have faith with full enthusiasm. One pure Vaishnava Acharya has written that the process of bhajana kriya, devotional practice, is of two types: nishtita, fixed, and anishtita, not fixed, flickering. Nishtita, steady; anishtita, unsteady. With faith, one should learn devotional service under the merciful direction of a sadhu. And when he attains the stage of firm faith, he engages in nishtita, fixed devotional service. Until he attains this fixed devotional service, his service remains flickering. In this stage of devotional service, there are 6 symptoms: utsahamayi, false confidence; ghanatarala, sporadic endeavor. This is a very nice translation. Sporadic endeavor. Sometimes we endeavor to progress in Krishna consciousness, other times we are done. Vyuta vikalpa, not vikalpa, vikalpa. Indecision. Vishaya sangara. Here also, there's no final. Trivikrama, there's no final long way. Struggle with the senses. Niyama kshama, here also. Short A, finally. Inability to uphold vows. And Taranga Rangini, enjoying the material facilities offered by bhakti. This is straight taken from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Madhurya Kadambini. During our times, when we joined, our first duty, as far as reading books are concerned, first duty was to read all of Prabhupada's books, translation and purports, or Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Śrī Upadeśāmṛta, and other books, and read all books. First of all, read. Just one time, just read through. Then afterwards, we would read Prabhupada Leelamrita, both the abridged and unabridged versions. Then there are certain books that we would read. Madhurya Kadambini was one. Madhurya Kadambini explains every step of Krishna consciousness. I think we have it in Nāmāśraya-bhakti. In Śrī Haribhakti Vilas, carelessness is at least a portion, I think the 3rd chapter of Madhurya Kadambini deals with Namapara. I'm thinking we should take some portion from that. In Śrī Haribhakti Vilas, carelessness is counted among the offenses against the holy. In that scripture, the word pramada is described as inattentiveness. Sri Harinam Chintamani has further divided this inattentiveness in 3 ways. Harinam Chintamani is based on a manuscript that Bhaktivinoda Thakur discovered, which contained information about a particular conversation that took place between Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Haridas Thakur. So based on that, he presented Harinam. Apathy, inactivity, and distraction are the three types of inattentiveness. Until one gets free from these three types of inattentiveness, one cannot perform devotional service at all. Even if one gives up all other namaparasas, if he is still inattentive, he can never have attraction for the holy names. Let me read it again. Even if one gives up all other namaparasas, if he is still inattentive, he can never have attraction for the holy names. If one has enthusiasm in the beginning of devotional service and that enthusiasm does not become cold, then one will never become apathetic, lazy, or distracted in chanting the holy names. Therefore, enthusiasm is the only support for all types of devotional service. By enthusiastically performing devotional service, one can give up anishtita service, flickering engagement in bhakti, in a very short time, and thus attain nishtha, steadiness. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami has said, Ādau Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangotha Bhajana Kriya Tato Narthan Nivritisya Tato Nishtha Ruchistata. By the awakening of faith, one becomes eligible for devotional service. When this eligibility is attained, one achieves the association of devotees. By the association of devotees, one is engaged in the execution of devotional service. In the beginning, there is no nishtha or firm. Nishtha means not just faith. Nishtha means steadiness in bhajana kriya. Krishna Chandrati Thakur describes it as uninterrupted engagement in the activities of devotional service. Uninterrupted engagement. Activities of devotional service means the 64 items of devotional service. Uninterrupted engagement. In the beginning, there is no nishtha in that service because various types of anarthas keep crushing the heart. All anarthas are vanquished, however, by performing devotional service with enthusiasm. The more anarthas are vanquished, the more nishtha is awakened. The word Shraddha is certainly faith, but enthusiasm is the life of Shraddha. Faith without enthusiasm is meaningless. Many people think they have faith in God, but because they have no enthusiasm to worship God, no enthusiasm to spread the worship of God, their faith has no meaning. So from this we understand whether a person has conviction in devotion service or not. What is the person having a faith in? Does he have faith in bhakti, jnana, karma, or anya vilashita? That depends on what he is enthusiastic to engage in and spread. If he is enthusiastic to engage in the activities of adharma and spread it, adharma is the same as anya vilashita, then he is an anya vilashi, he is an adharmic person, even though he may be engaged in the routine activities of devotional service. If a person is enthusiastic to engage in and propagate karma, pious activities, pious material activities. Pious material activities refers to dharma artha kama, accepting the Vedic system of materialistic life, dharma, in order to become economically well situated within the boundaries of that dharma, artha, and to enjoy conjugal pleasure within the boundaries of dharma. This is called dharma artha kama, trivarga. And if he's enthusiastic to engage in and propagate trivarga, which is certainly higher than adharma, it's culture, Vedic culture, then he's dharmi, even if he's engaged in the routine activities of bhakti. If he wants to engage in, if he's enthusiastic to engage in the activities of the jnana system and to propagate it and realize that we are qualitatively one with God, then he's a jnani, even if he's engaged in the routine activities of devotional service, bhakti. On the other hand, if he is enthusiastic to engage in and to propagate the activities of devotion service to Krishna, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasim, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam, then he is a devotee by the standard of Bhaktivinoda Vishwanath Chakravarti. He is also engaged in the routine activities of Bhakti. The word Shraddha is certainly faith, but enthusiasm is the life of Shraddha. Faith without enthusiasm is meaningless. Therefore, due to lack of sadhu sangha, they do not perform devotion service because they don't have appropriate, rather they don't associate with proper sadhus. Therefore, they don't engage in devotion service to the Supreme Lord, even though they think they have faith in the Supreme Lord. Nishchaya, confidence. In his Upadeśāmṛta, Śrī Rupa Goswami has instructed the practitioners of devotional service to be confident. Until this confidence is achieved, one will remain doubtful. Doubtful persons never have auspiciousness. How then will they have faith in unalloyed devotion service when they are doubtful at heart? It is said in Bhagavad Gita, Agyascha Shraddha Dhanascha Samshayatma Vinashyati Nayam Lokosti na paro na sukham samshayatmanaha. But ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. They fall down. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. Now, okay, anyway, still, since we are in Gita excerpt, let me take out an interesting excerpt. Chapter 16. Okay, right. Here, no. Got it. Sixteen. Towards the end of chapter 16. That's a very interesting statement. No, actually, it's at the end of chapter 15. Sorry. This is the exact expression. Is this Yoma Mevam Asamurho Janati Purushottamam Sarvavid Bhajati Mam Sarva Bhavena Bharata. That person who, without being bewildered, understands me to be the Supreme Person. He knows everything. He worships me with all his heart. O descendant of Bharata, 15.9 Bhagavad Gita. Now here, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has made an interesting remark. He says, a person who understands Krishna's position, ya evam janati sa eva mam sarvato bhavena bhajati. A person who understands me as a supreme person, only such a person, he worships, he engages in devotional service in every possible manner. Tadanye bhajanapi namam bhajati tyartha. Whereas others who haven't understood Krishna's position as a supreme being, even when they engage in devotional service, they are not engaging in devotional service. So that is a very interesting point, that it is not just engagement in devotional service that matters. What is the understanding with which you engage in devotional service? That matters also. Here, Śrī Upadeśāmṛta, Sarvatha bhajannapi abhakta iti bhava. That's an implication here that even though he is engaged in various activities of bhajana kriya, that person is actually an abhakta, because he does not understand the supreme personality of Godhead, does not understand that Krishna is the supreme personality of God. Sarva vedartha vettari, sarva bhakti anga anushtatari cha, yo me prasada sa tasmin bhaved, iti me purushottamatve sandhihanas to ajita sarva vedopi agyaha. The person may understand the purport of the entire Vedas. He may be engaged in all the items of bhakti. All the items of bhakti means 64 items of bhakti. But he has a doubt that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. So he is ignorant. And he is a non-devotee. Because even though he is engaged in devotional service, he has missed the point. So conviction is very, very important. Understanding, conviction, these things are very important. That is why I repeatedly say that there are these elements, Shraddha, conviction, Pragya, understanding, Spriha, ambition, Kriya, activities. So we need to have complete faith in bhakti, the process of Shuddha Bhakti. We need to fully understand all aspects of devotion service. We need to have a desire to exclusively engage in devotion service to Krishna. That means give up everything else, literally everything else. We need to have that desire that at some point in time, somehow, it's inconceivable, but I want it. I want it. I want that. I only engage in devotion service to Krishna and engage in activities that make him happy. That's all. I don't want anything else. And I need to engage in the various activities of devotion service. So there are different dimensions: conviction, comprehension, ambition, application. So all four are required. Conviction is very, very important, because you need to have faith, and you need to have the right understanding also. One who has faith is certainly without doubts, because the word faith means firm conviction. Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kohe Sudridha Nishchay. Shraddha means very firm conviction. Very firm, unbreakable conviction. As long as doubts are there, firm conviction cannot remain in the heart. Therefore, faithful living entities are always doubtless. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has ordered all Vaishnavas to first understand these three truths: Sambandha, Abhidheya, and Prayojana. In our line, we refer to these as Sambandha, Abhidheya, Prayojana. There's also another preliminary. There's another category which is preliminary, Pramana. We should understand what constitutes a source of valid knowledge. This is preliminary, because first of all, you need to understand that the Vedas are the highest sources of valid knowledge. And then based on the teachings of the Vedas, we understand there is Sambandha, Abhidheya, Prayojana. Sambandha means relationships. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has referred to it as reference. Everything has a reference to Krishna. Everything is related to Krishna. Sambandha. Then that is Abhideya. Abhideya literally means teaching. But in this context, it means the means in order to attain the ultimate necessity, which is called prayojana. Prayojana means the need, the necessity, the goal. And Abhideya is the means in order to achieve that goal. And Sambandha means understanding the interconnections, the relationships between different things. Specifically, we are talking about the relationships between the Ishvara, Jivas, Prakriti, Kala, and Karma. The relationships between these. Abhideya, Prayojana is Bhagavad Prema, Prema Bhakti. And the Abhideya, or the teaching of the Veda, or the means to attain Prema Bhakti is sadhana. And what is the source of valid knowledge? The source of valid knowledge is actually Vedic scriptures. It is on the basis of the Vedic scriptures we understand all of this. There are 10 principal subjects in these 3 truths. The first is that the Vedic literatures are the only authority. In order to ascertain the truth, one must accept authority. There are 9 realities which can only be known through the Vedic authority. Different scriptures have defined different authorities. Some say pratyaksha, or direct understanding, sense perception. Some say anuman, or hypothetical understanding, logical inference. And some say upamana, or analogies, comparison, or authorities. And others include other subjects as authorities. All other authorities, however, are considered auxiliary authorities by the Vaishnava literatures propounded by Sriman Mahaprabhu. Therefore, the self-perfect authority received through the disciplic succession is the only principal authority to be accepted. The self-perfect authority received through the disciplic succession means Vedic knowledge as it has been handed down through the disciplic succession. It makes no sense to accept the authority of Vedic Shastra fully, not partially, but not accepting the explanation of that Vedic Shastra provided by a perfect disciplic succession. Yasya deve parabhakti, yatha deve tatha guru, tasyaite katita hi artha prakashante mahatmanaha. The principle is we need to accept Shastra, but we also need to accept parampara. What kind of parampara? Nirdosha parampara. A spotless disciplic succession of spiritual masters, which means that the members of this parampara are not just sadhaka Vaishnavas, they are siddha purushas. They have attained spiritual perfection. So the explanation of Vedic Shastra given by those who are perfect in spiritual realization. With that, we understand Shastra. We need both. In fact, there is a very interesting explanation of what is the relationship between the Guru or Guru Parampara, the mercy of the Guru and Guru Parampara on one hand, and the mercy of Krishna on the other hand, and scriptural knowledge. We'll trace it out now. Yeah. Bhagavatam 7.15.45. Yavandrikaya rathamatma vashopakalpam bhakte garishta charana shanaya nishatam. Jnanasi machyuta balo dadhadasta shatru swananda tushta upashanta idam vijahyat. As long as one has to accept a material body with its different parts and paraphernalia which are not under one's control, which are not fully under one's control, one must have the lotus feet of his superiors, namely his spiritual master and the spiritual master's predecessors. By their mercy, one can sharpen the sword of knowledge, and with the power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's mercy, one must then conquer the enemies mentioned above. In this way, the devotee should be able to merge into his own transcendental bliss. And then he may give up his body and resume his spiritual identity. Now, there's Prabhupada has explained it in one lecture. By serving the spiritual master, you keep your weapon always sharp. Now here, scriptural knowledge has been compared to a weapon, Jnanasim. So by serving the spiritual master, you keep your weapon always sharpened. And then take help from Krishna. The words of spiritual master sharpen the weapon, and Yasya Prasadat Bhagavad, and the spiritual master is happy. Then Krishna immediately will help. He gives you strength. Suppose you have got a sword, sharpened sword, but if you have no strength, what will you do with this sword? Krishna will give you the strength how to fight and kill the enemies. Everything is described. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Guru Krishna Kripai Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. Make your weapon sharpened by the instruction of the spiritual master, then Krishna will give you strength. You'll be able to conquer. This figurative explanation, I think, last night I gave. Here is a verse, Achyuta Bala. So, from this, what do we understand? We understand that the nature of the mercy of the spiritual master and his predecessor authorities, their mercy is that one can sharpen the sword of knowledge. The sword of knowledge refers to knowledge of the scriptures. So one must first of all have a sword. You must have a sword. You must have scriptural knowledge. Then you have to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master as well as a perfect Guru Parampara. What will they do? They will sharpen your sword. That is their mercy. They will sharpen your sword. And then what will the Supreme Personality of Godhead do? We keep hearing Guru Krishna Prasade Pai. One requires Krishna's mercy and we require Guru's mercy. What is that Krishna's mercy? That is, he will give you power, he will give you strength. You need to have a sword, you need to have it sharpened, and you need to have strength. If you have a sword and it is sharpened, but you have no strength, how will you be able to use it against your enemies? Your enemies refer to the various anarthas. So therefore, we understand that the mercy of the Guru Parampara is very, very important because they will sharpen the sword of knowledge. But first of all, you need to have the sword. So you need to accept Vedic authority. You need to study and understand. You need to study the Vedic scriptures. But to understand the Vedic scriptures correctly, for that you need the mercy of the Parampara authorities. The Parampara authorities sharpen the sword and give it to you so that it becomes usable. Otherwise, you have a blunt sword. With the blunt sword, how can you fight with enemies successfully? On top of it, you require strength to fight. You need to have strength. That strength has to come from Krishna. So therefore, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches us that first of all you need to have faith in Vedic scriptures. Without faith in Vedic scriptures, knowledge of Vedic scriptures will not help. Therefore, the self-perfect authority received through the disciplic succession is the only principal authority to be accepted. It is our first source of valid knowledge. Authority means source of valid knowledge. Pramana. All the natures that exist in this world are divided into two categories. Some are inconceivable and some are conceivable. The material natures are conceivable because they automatically awaken in the course of thinking. Spiritual nature is inconceivable because it is not perceivable by people's poor fund of knowledge. Inconceivable natures cannot be known without self-realization. Let me read that sentence again. Inconceivable natures cannot be known without self-realization. Unless I become realized, unless I realize that I am a spirit soul different from my body. And then further on, when I realize that I am a spirit soul, an eternal servant of the Supreme Soul, two levels of self-realization are there. One cannot know about inconceivable natures. Therefore, there is no entrance into inconceivable subjects for authorities like Pratyaksha, which are included in the category of argument. Argument refers to yukti or logic. Logic is dependent on sense perception. The same textbook example for logical argument. I see from a distance a mountain. Behind the mountain, I see some smoke coming up. So I understand that something is burning on the other side. How do I know it is burning on the other side? I'm not seeing it. So it is not pratyaksha. It is not based on sense perception. Because I know that wherever there is fire, there is smoke. And here is smoke. So there must be fire down, even though I cannot see that fire. This is called logical inference, but it is based on sense perception. I'm seeing this smoke right now, and therefore I'm coming to the conclusion that there is fire on the other side of the mountain. If I don't see that smoke, and if in the past I have never ever seen fire producing smoke, invariably, if I've never seen it, then I would not come to this conclusion also. So therefore, logical inference is dependent on sense perception. Therefore, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying it is included in the category of argument. It is included in the category of logical inference. That is why Śrī Upadeśāmṛta Sindhu, as quoted from the Mahabharata Udyoga Parva, says, Achintya khaluye bhava natam starkena yojaye prakritimshya paramyacha tadachintyasya lakshana. Anything transcendental to material nature is inconceivable and thus cannot be grasped through mundane arguments. Therefore, one should not try to understand transcendental subjects in this way. There is no entrance for pratyaksha and anumana in that state. In order to know that inconceivable nature, self-realization is the only means. Self-realization is almost impossible for ordinary people. Seeing people's terrible madness, the most merciful Supreme Lord manifested the Vedic literatures. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Śrī Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, Maya Mugdha Jive Nahi Swatah Krishna Gyan Jivere Kripai Koila Krishna Veda Puran Veda Shastra Kohe Sambandha Abhideya Prayojan Krishna Prapya Sambandha Bhakti Prapyer Sadhan Abhideya Nam Bhakti Prem Prayojan Purushartha Shiromani Prem Mahadhan. The conditioned soul cannot revive his Krishna consciousness by his own effort. But out of causeless mercy, Lord Krishna compiled the Vedic literature and its supplements, the Vedas. The Vedic literatures give information about the living entity's eternal relationship with Krishna, which is called Sambandha. Sambandha literally means relationship. The living entity's understanding of this relationship and acting accordingly is called Abhideya. Returning home back to Godhead is the ultimate goal of life and is called Prayojana. Prayojana literally means necessity, need. By implication, goal, or that which you seek, objective. Devotional service or sense activity for the satisfaction of the Lord is called abhideya, because it can develop one's original love of God, which is the goal of life. This goal is the living entity's topmost interest and greatest wealth. Thus, one attains the platform of transcendental loving service unto the Lord. To know the inconceivable nature, the Vedic authority alone should be accepted. There is one other consideration in this regard. Vedic knowledge received through the Guru Parampara is called Amnaya. Vedic knowledge received through the Guru Parampara is called Amnaya. There is a book called Amnaya Sutra, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Very beautiful book, in which Sri Bhaktivinoda himself has summarized the teachings of Vedic knowledge as received through the disciplic succession. This is the original edition. It contains sutras, Sanskrit sutras. Tattvamekam dvitiyam. There is only one truth. There are no two truths. And then he provides a commentary, a brief commentary. And he also provides a translation. But for each verse, he provides a quotation from the Shruti. That means Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Athurva Veda, Sama Veda. This is called Shruti. He provides a quotation from Smriti, like he provides a reference from Bhagavatam, which is Smriti. And he provides evidence from some work of an Acharya in the disciplic succession. He quotes from Chaitanya Charitamrita. For each, he summarizes each topic in one sutra, 130 sutras. He has covered Sambandha Vidaya Prayer, Nityam Savishesham, for instance. That supreme truth, Nityam Achintya Shaktikam, that supreme absolute truth is eternally in possession of inconceivable potencies. That's a sutra. And for that, he's got evidence. He's quoting from Shvetashvatara Upanishad, which is a Shruti scripture. He quotes from Hayashirsha Pancharatra, which is a Smriti scripture. And then he quotes from Sri Jiva Goswami, Bhagavad Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami. So you see, he's quoting from scriptures and he's quoting from some member of the perfect disciplic succession. So that is the same thing that he's referring to here. But the Vedic knowledge received through the Guru Parampara is called Amnaya. There are so many subjects in the Vedas, and there are various instructions for different qualifications. There are various instructions for people of different eligibilities, different capacities, different fitnesses, different qualifications. Among all qualifications, the qualification for devotional life is the topmost. So when one becomes qualified to progress towards the perfection of pure devotional service to Krishna, then that qualification is considered the highest qualification. By the strength of their devotional service, the previous Mahajanas, great souls, have awakened to self-realization and thereby separately written instructions regarding the qualifications for devotional service as mentioned in the Vedas. Therefore, the Vedic statements ascertained by the previous Mahajanas as relating to the qualifications for devotion are all called Amnaya, and it is necessary to learn them. So what have these previous Acharyas, perfect, pure devotees of the Supreme Lord, what have they done? They have clarified the meaning of Vedic statements pertaining to those who have the qualification for engaging in pure devotional service unto Krishna in order to attain the perfection of pure devotional service unto Krishna. we should always remember Traigunya Vishaya Veda. Estraigunya Bhavarta. The Vedas are meant for an audience which is in Tamoguna, Rajoguna, Sattva-guna, and in transcendence. And for each level, the Vedic scriptures speak in a particular manner. So now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is pointing out that the highest teachings of the scriptures are for those that are directed towards those souls who are fully eligible to enter into the pathway of pure sadhana bhakti, leading to pure bhava bhakti, leading to pure prema. That is known as the Anna, the teachings of the disciplic succession, and it is necessary to learn them. It is important to study them. It is impossible to enter into the inconceivable nature without receiving the full mercy of the spiritual master. The instruction of Śrī Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this regard is given in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Ihate drishtanta jaitse doridrer ghore sarvagya aside dukkha dekhi puchaye ta hare. The following parable may be given. Once a learned astrologer came to the house of a poor man and seeing his distressed condition, questioned him. Tumi kene dukhi tomar achepitri dhan tomare na kohilo annatra chadilo jivan. The astrologer asked, why are you unhappy? Your father was very wealthy, but he did not disclose his wealth to you because he died elsewhere. Sarvagyer bhakye kore dhaner udeshe oicheve puran jive Krishna upadeshe. Just as the words of the astrologer Sarvagya gave news of the poor man's treasure, Vedic literatures advise one about Krishna consciousness when one is inquisitive to know why he is in a distressed material condition. So just as that omniscient astrologer, he points out that poor man actually has a treasure. Similarly, the Vedas and Puranas, they give instructions to the living entities to start focusing on Krishna, to become Krishna conscious. Sarvagyer vakya mula dhan anubandha sarva shastre upadeshe Shri Krishna sambandha. By the words of the astrologer, the poor man's connection with the treasure was established. Similarly, Vedic literature advises us that our real connection is with Shri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is called Sambandha. Baper dhan ache gyane dhan nahi paye tobe sarvagya kohe tare praptir upay. Although being assured of his father's treasure, the poor man cannot acquire this treasure by such knowledge alone. Therefore, the astrologer had to inform him of the means whereby he could actually find the treasure. So, just by knowing there is my father's wealth somewhere, just with that knowledge, he cannot actually get access to that wealth. And therefore, that omniscient astrologer, he told him about the means to get that. This is all Lord Chaitanya's teachings to Sanatana Goswami. এই স্থানে আছে ধন যদি দক্ষিণে খুদিবে ভীমরুল বরুলি উঠিবে ধন না পাইবে. The astrologer said the treasure is in this place, but if you dig towards the southern side, the wasps and drones will rise and you will not get your treasure. Paschime খুদিবে তাহা যক্ষ এক হয় সেই বিঘ্ন করিবে ধনে হাত না পড়য়. If you dig on the western side, there is a ghost who will create such a disturbance that your hands will not even touch the treasure. উত্তরে খুদিলে আছে কৃষ্ণ অজগরে ধন নাহি পাবে খুদিতে গিলিবে সবারে. If you dig on the northern side, there is a big black snake that will devour you if you attempt to dig up the treasure. পূর্ব দিকে তাতে মাটি অল্প খুঁড়িতে ধনের ঝাড়ি পড়িবে তোমার হাতেতে. However, if you dig up a small quantity of dirt on the eastern side, your hands will immediately touch the pot of treasure. Oichi Shastra kohe karma gyan jog teji, bhakti Krishna bosh hoy, bhakti tare bhaji. Revealed scriptures conclude that one should give up fruitive activity, karma, speculative knowledge, jnana, and the mystic yoga system, yoga, and instead take to devotional service by which Krishna can be fully satisfied. So the various scriptures, they not only tell us what to do, they also tell us what not to do. They also tell us what not to do. That is very, very important. It's not enough to simply know what to do. It is also important to know what not to do. When a person who desires spiritual perfection hears the conclusions regarding the soul from the spiritual master, then his heart becomes pure and he proceeds toward the lotus feet of Krishna. Nāmāśraya is the only authority regarding the goal of life. Vedic knowledge as received through the perfect disciplic succession is the only authority regarding the goal of life. Vedic knowledge as received through the perfect disciplic succession is the only source of valid knowledge regarding the goal of life. One should consider the other 9 realities through this authority. And this understanding manifests in the pure heart on the strength of Nāmāśraya. This is called self-realization. And this is the basis of life's goal. So one should understand the various teachings of Vedic knowledge as it has been explained within the perfect disciplic succession. And if we submit to that authority, then this understanding will be revealed in the heart, in the pure heart, in a heart that is freed from the anarthas. This is called self-realization. And this is the basis of life's goal. This is the foundation. This is the starting point in order to attain life's goal, which is Krishna Prema. Regarding the first reality, Nāmāśraya says, the Supreme Brahman, Sri Hari, is the only worshipable Lord. His impersonal conception is called Brahman, which is nothing but his bodily effulgence. That Supreme Lord Hari, in one of his expansions, becomes the super soul or controller who creates, maintains, and destroys the universes. Lord Hari is none other than Krishna. The super soul is none other than Vishnu, and his bodily effulgence is none other than Brahman, the Brahmajyoti. By discussing the truth about the omnipotent Lord Hari, all one's doubts regarding the Supreme Lord are cleared. Until these doubts are cleared, one cultivates knowledge by discussing impersonal Brahman as opposite to material knowledge. Again, in order to understand the super soul, the expansion of the Lord, Ashtanga Yoga is conceived. Only when one is freed from all doubts does he attain unflinching devotion to Krishna. I will also take this opportunity to introduce you to certain important verses composed by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. This framework of 10 teachings, 1 plus 9. 1 meaning the source of valid knowledge, and that this source of valid knowledge or Vedic Shastra talks about 9 realities. This entire framework is known as Dashamul, the 10 foundations. This is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's method of teaching the essence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions to the living entities. He presents it in several places in his writings. Chaitanya Shikshamrta, Mahaprabhu Shiksha, Dashamul Niryas, Bhagavad Gita Dashamul, Nāmāśraya Dashamul, Bhagavad Gita Dashamul, Bhagavata Dashamul, Chaitanya Charitamrita Dashamul. and in his most important book, Jaiva Dharma. Jaiva Dharma, also we come across this. Let me introduce you to each verse. Okay. This is a summary presentation of all the 10 teachings of Bhaktivinoda. Amnaya praha tattvam harimiha paramam sarvashaktim rasabdhyam tad bhinnam shamscha jivan prakritik kavalitan tad vivittamscha bhavat bheda bheda prakasham sakalamapi hare sadhanam shuddha bhaktim bheda. Bheda bheda prakasham sakalamapi hare sadhanam shuddha bhaktim sadhyam tat pritime vetyupadeshiti janan gaurachandra swayamsah. The Vedic knowledge that is received through the system of Guru Parampara, disciplic succession, is known as Amnaya, the most authoritative and exhaustive wisdom. The Vedas known as the Shruti and the Smriti scriptures, for example, the Srimad Bhagavatam, which are fully in line with the Shruti, meaning those Smriti scriptures which are fully in line with the Shruti, such as Srimad Bhagavatam, are essentially transcendental and are thus presented as the Pramana, proof and evidence. Pramana means proof, Pramana means evidence, Pramana means authority, Pramana means source of valid knowledge. The directly perceivable truths propounded and evidenced by the Pramana are designated as the Prameya, reality. There are 9 realities. They are 9 in number. Param Tattva, Parama Tattva. Shri Krishna, Shri Hari is the supreme absolute truth. Sarvashakti Maham, Shri Hari is omnipotent. Akhila Rasamrita Sindhu, Shri Hari is the shoreless ocean of unlimited nectarian mellows. Vibhinnam Shatattva. The entire range of liberated and conditioned souls are Shri Hari's eternally separated parts and parcels and comprise his Jiva Shakti. Baddha Jiva. The conditioned Jiva is infected by Maya. Mukta Jiva. The liberated Jiva is free from Maya. Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. All creation, either material or spiritual, is a manifestation of Shri Hari's inconceivable potency, which is simultaneously different and non-different from the Lord himself. Shuddha Bhakti. Pure Bhakti is the only sadhana. And Krishna Priti. Krishna Prema alone is the ultimate sadhya, goal. These 9 items of Prameya, reality, statements about reality, plus the first item of Pramana, source of Vedic knowledge, the Vedas, collectively comprise the 10 items known as the Dashamul, the 10 root truths expounded by Shri Krishna Chaitanya. No. Here. This is about the source of valid knowledge. Svata siddho vedo haridayita vedha pravrititaha pramanam satpraptah pramiti vishayam sthan navavidhan tatha pratyakshadi pramiti sahitam sadhayati no nayuktistarkakhya pravishati tatha shakti rahita. The Vedic knowledge which Lord Brahma and his disciplic succession received by the mercy of the Supreme Lord Shri Hari is self-evidently perfect. This absolutely authoritative and exhaustive knowledge establishes, with the help of its self-effulgent and directly perceivable truths, the 9 principles of Prameya Tattva, knowledge about reality. The methods of logical debate and speculation are incapable of correctly ascertaining the inconceivable spiritual subject matter. Oh. One more place where he talks about, okay, here is the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Haristvekam tattvam vidhisiva suresha pranamito yadevedam brahma prakriti rahitam tattanumaha Paratma tasyamsho jagadanagato vishwajanakah savairadha kanto navajalata kantischitu dayaha. The Supreme Lord Sri Hari, who is worshipped by Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Indra, and other great personalities, is alone the one absolute truth. The Brahman is impotent and impersonal, the bodily effulgence of Sri Hari. Paramatma, the Super Soul, the universal controller, who is omnipresent throughout the material creation, is merely the partial expansion of Sri Hari. This Supreme Personality, Sri Hari, is our dearest Lord, the most beloved of Srimati Radhika, the embodiment of spiritual ecstasy, with a complexion that flouts the beauty of fresh monsoon clouds. So, this is what he has stated here. Regarding the first reality, the Amnaya says, the Supreme Brahman Sri Hari is the only worshipable Lord. His impersonal conception is called Brahman, which is nothing but his bodily effulgence. That Supreme Lord Hari is, in one of his expansions, becomes the Super Soul or controller, who creates, maintains, and destroys the universes. Lord Hari is none other than Krishna. The Super Soul is none other than Vishnu. And his bodily effulgence is none other than Brahman. Okay. Some of the questions here. Some devotees within our movement are enthusiastic to propagate and establish Varnashama Dharma, one of the 4 movements of Srila Prabhupada. Does it mean they have more faith in karma than bhakti? Please explain. See, for those who require to engage in karma, Varnashama Dharma is same as karma. It is very important that they be helped to understand the importance of performing their material duties. Tavat karmani kurvita, na nirvidyate yavata. Yavat mat katha shravanado va shraddha yavan na jayate. 11th canto, Lord Krishna speaks to Uddhava. He says, at what point can we give up our material duties and engage exclusively in the spiritual duties of Bhakti Yoga? He says, he gives 2 options. Until one develops full-fledged detachment and renunciation from material enjoyment, material desires, and so on. Or until one develops unbreakable faith, Shraddha, in the topics pertaining to Lord Krishna. Until then, everyone is duty bound to engage in the activities of the Varnashrama system. So if I cannot function as a Nirapeksha, if I cannot exclusively engage in devotional service unto Krishna, in all the 4 aspects, in all these 4 aspects, full devotional service, like in terms of conviction, in terms of understanding, in terms of ambition, in terms of activities, in every 4 manner, all these 4 types, in all these 4 considerations, I'm only interested in devotional service unto Krishna. I don't bother about anything else. I'm not interested in anything else, in the literal sense. Whether I get money or not, I don't care. Whether I'm healthy or not, I don't care. Whether people respect me or not, I don't care. Whether people deal with me nicely or not, I don't care. I'm only interested in this. That's all. These are Nirapeksha sadhakas. People who are indifferent to everything other than the goal and the means to attain the goal. I want to attain Sadhya Bhakti, Prema Bhakti, and I want the means for that is Sadhana Bhakti, and that's all. Not interested in sinful activities, nor am I interested in family life and so on, all these pious activities. I'm not interested in these. I'm not interested in pious activities even with the mixture of Krishna consciousness. I want nothing other than devotional service to Krishna. My life is just that. These are the Nirapeksha Vaishnavas. Nirapeksha Vaishnavas only want to engage in devotional service. That's all. They don't want anything else. They are Nirashramas. They are not Grihasthas. They are exclusively engaged in devotional service unto the Supreme Lord. So, if we cannot come up to that, then what can be done? The next step is most of the time engage in devotional service. And sometime, I'm saying on a daily basis, most of the time engage in devotion service. And some little bit, just have a tinge of engagement in family duties and so on. Prabhupada has given this facility. This is Prabhupada's unique gift, actually. He allows grihasthas to live in his centers. But you should understand that such devotees will only get some peanut money. You can't live a comfortable life like that. You have to be willing to accept Brahmanical austerity and poverty in order to live like that. And Prabhupada considered it perfectly normal. Perfectly normal. Ravindra Swarup Prabhu once told me, Philadelphia, America, he and his wife joined his cult. And in the hall, there were 6 families. That hall was divided by clothes into 6 portions. And he got one of those portions for his family, for his wife. And I think he had 1 or 2 children also. This is how Brahmanas live. Brahmanas love voluntary poverty. So Parinishtitas are like that. Parinishtitas may play the role of, they accept Varnashrama Dharma only for others' benefit. They are doing role playing. They followed, whichever Varna or Ashrama they may be role playing, they follow that very strictly for whole life, just to benefit others, just for inspiring others. And you have the Nirapekshas, Parikshas, you have Swanishtas. The Swanishtas on a daily basis, most of their time goes in various material activities, which they engage in only for coming to the mode of goodness, and they mix it with devotion service. That's Swanishtas. Swanishtas, they have desire for Bhukti, Mukti, Bhakti. Parinishtitas have desire for Mukti and Bhakti, no desire for Bhukti. Nirapekshas have no desire for Bhukti, Mukti, they are only interested in Bhakti. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur's plan was that let the person first of all become a Swanishta, then let him become a Parinishtita, then let him become a Nirapeksha. So in that way he will come to the highest perfection. But let him start with wherever he is. Let him start realistically, and then let him progress. Let him submissively associate with those who are more advanced and then progress. So that is how it is meant to be. And for Swanishtas, Varnashrama Dharma is practically their infrastructure. If you don't divide things according to Varna and Ashramas, you don't specify Purusha Dharma, Stri Dharma, everything becomes a gigantic mess. For Swanishtas, their main service to Krishna is in Yat Karoshi Yadashnasi Yadjuhosi Tadasi Yat Tapasyasi Konte Yat Kurushvama Tarpana. But for that, you need to follow certain procedures. Just like for cooking, you need to follow certain procedures. So like that for Varnashrama Dharma, Yat Karoshi, whatever activity you do, meaning within the Vedic system, that immediately means according to your guna karma, you need to be classified, and the genders need to be segregated, and they need to do. That's how you do. Swakarmana tamabhyarchya siddhim vindati manava. According to one's material swadharma, one places himself, one engages in those activities, carries it out for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, along with the engagement in Bhagavata Dharma, which is 9 types of devotion service. That also, both are going on parallel on a daily basis. And then gradually one increases his chanting, and then one develops a taste, and then the Bhagavata Dharma increases. So at a certain point, automatically he becomes a Parinishtita, and he increases further, and then he comes to a Nirapeksha status. So within a few decades, he moves from Swanishta to Parinishta to Nirapeksha. But for that, you need to have that infrastructure. If you don't have Varnashrama Dharma, then you are left with the civilization of Adharma. And a civilization of Adharma is completely opposed to spiritual progress. Varnashrama Dharma is not opposed to spiritual progress. It is not opposed to spiritual progress because Varnashrama Dharma supports the basic principles of Vairagya, Vidya, Bhakti. It is an infrastructure. So if one has a proper understanding of this, then that kind of propaganda for Varnashama Dharma is very useful. Very useful. It provides you a good infrastructure. My teacher Gopi Pranam Prabhu, he explained, it's like when you occupy a house, a new house, you expect certain things to be already fitted. You expect that water comes out of the tap. You expect that electricity is fitted. This is called infrastructure. So Varnashama Dharma is basic infrastructure. It will be very difficult, he told, that if you bought a house in the 3rd floor of some building and the lift doesn't work, electricity doesn't come, water doesn't come, the toilet doesn't go, it's just infrastructure problems. So then you start thinking a lot about it. It becomes a problem, it becomes a distraction. So Varnashama Dharma is infrastructure. Prabhu is simply saying, set up the infrastructure. That's all. But after setting up all the electricity and all, then what? Or let me give you another example. You want to set up an office. For that also you need to set up an infrastructure. But after setting up this infrastructure, then what? Then you need to engage in the actual activity for which that office was established. So Varnashama Dharma is an essential infrastructure. It is, practically speaking, the crying need of the hour from the material perspective. If only our food was secured. Prabhupada is very practical. He said, you need to first of all secure your food. Modern civilization, where is the food security? It is a farce. Where is the food security? So at least, it is a very reasonable, you produce what is required. Don't go beyond that. So it is definitely a platform standing on which you can progress in Krishna consciousness smoothly. It is not that now if you say, no, let me avoid sinful activities, let me avoid Varnashama Dharma also, but let me struggle to progress in Krishna consciousness, because I'm not used to Varnashama Dharma. It's just everything is so complicated and so too many things need to be done. That's fine. In Chaitanya Shikshamrita, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that he gives 2 examples of persons. One is Haridas Thakur, another is Jesus Christ. They went through great difficulty in order to go about in their spiritual activities. Without Varnashama Dharma, devotees will go through extreme difficulty if they want to tangibly progress from Shraddha to Prema. If you want to be in Tamoguna and simply imagine that I'm doing something, when I die, I'm going back to God. Then next life again you will come up, and again next life again you will come up with the same imagination. I'm doing my best, and then when I die, I'll go back to God. Life after life after life will go on like this. What is the use of this kind of fantasy-based Krishna consciousness? You need to progress in Krishna consciousness tangibly. When it says your lust, anger, greed will reduce, you should be able to see your lust, anger, greed reducing. Everybody will be able to see your lust, anger, greed is reducing. That is what is meant by spiritual progress. Not that we we get distracted by each other. Not that we should not allow ourselves to be distracted by each other also. To progress in Krishna consciousness. If you start thinking along these lines, you'll understand the logic of Varnashama Dharma. Why karma is required? Karma is required. Bhakti Anukula Jnana is important. Bhakti Anukula Karma is also important. Prabhupada's description of Varnashama Dharma is only Bhakti Anukula Karma. And if it is kept in a manner that only serves as an infrastructure to progress for the individual devotees to progress in Krishna consciousness, it is a very, very good environment. Jnana karma jnanavratam. Then that engagement in karma does not contaminate bhakti. In that case, it would be very useful. Where to draw a line so that Varnashama engagements of a devotee does not violate the principles of pure devotion service. When the activities of karma are favorable to Shuddha Bhakti, that is acceptable. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada, they elaborately pointed out. The rules and regulations of karma are identical to devotees and non-devotees. The rules are not different. But even then, as one progresses in bhakti, he will just be spending lesser and lesser time in the activities of karma, the duties of karma. You'll be more busy with spiritual duties. You'll be less busy with material duties. And this will come naturally. If one carries out the instructions of Lord Krishna and he carries out the instructions of the perfect acharyas, it will come naturally. Anything else? One minute. Prem goes from the group.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna and Dandavat. Prabhuji, when you made that list, Shraddha, Pradnya, Spriha and Kriya, so you left 5, 6 and 7 blank. What was that? But why was it?
What is 5, 6 and 7?
You wrote those numbers, Shraddha, Kriya, Prema. So 5, 6 and 7 have been left. 6, 7 and 8.
No, I'm sorry. This is just a program which
okay.
just has it by default. That's it. It just has paragraph numbers automatically.
Can you just tell the meaning of Pradnya and Spriha once again, Prabhuji? Pradnya.
Wait. 1 minute. This is line numbers are creating trouble. Let me just use this. Shraddha is faith.
Yeah, that's
these are my own expressions. Let me first of all point out. I didn't know how else to describe the different aspects of Dashamul. Dashamul number 1 deals with Shraddha. Dashamul numbers 2 to 8 deal with Pragya. Dashamul number 9 deals with Spriha. Sorry, Dashamul number 10 deals with Spriha. Dashamul number 9 deals with Kriya. Pragya is my expression for understanding, comprehension. You need to understand certain things. Spriha, you need to have certain desires. Kriya, you need to engage in certain activities. So in Dashamul, we come across 4 different aspects. You need to believe in certain things. You need to know and understand certain things. You need to desire certain things. You need to do certain things. You need to disbelieve in certain things. You should not have a knowledge, understanding about certain things. You should not have desires for certain things. And you should not engage in certain things. The devotional service involves all of this. Okay, here is something. Not able to see it clearly. You mentioned about inattentive chanting in the beginning of the session. What is the definition of attentive chanting? Attentive. One is alert. We will come across this in Harinam Chintamani, so I'm not going into details. Are there various stages one can train oneself from inattentive to attentive chanting? Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Harinam Chintamani, while discussing attentive chanting, that is the remedy for the offense of inattention, he used 2 options. One option is you sit before the deities and with a service attitude, you watch them and you chant the holy names while remembering the meaning of the mantra. Chanting always involves remembering the meaning of the mantra. Another option, he says, close your eyes, close your ears, and chant while remembering the meaning of the mantra. So it looks like these have been standard procedures. Some or other, we are meant to keep ourselves in a non-distracting environment and with a service attitude, chant Krishna's names. What are the different stages? That I have not seen here. I do not know if it will appear in Harinam Chintamani. Anyway, we are going to go through Harinam Chintamani. It's in the syllabus for Nāmāśraya-bhakti. We will check that. But it appears to me that it would be worth noting down how many rounds of quality chanting we are doing per day. And then eventually keep checking whether that is increasing or decreasing. Measure what matters. When one is a devotee, does one experience the same effect of one's past karma? No. No. You have mentioned 5 aspects in relation to Sambandha Gyan. I can understand that Jiva can have Sambandha Gyan with Ishvara, but how other 4 aspects can relate to Sambandha Gyan? The others only come into picture when we turn away from Krishna. Actually, under Sambandha Gyan, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given us Dashamul number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that means 7 items he has given. He speaks about the nature of the Supreme Lord in 3 items, 3 headings. You can say 3 realities. And then he talks about the living entity in 3 items. And then he talks about Achintya Bheda Bheda, being the relationship between the Supreme Lord and the living entities. But I just mentioned here that Ishvara Jiva Prakriti Kala Karma, because we are used to that from our Bhagavad Gita studies. That's all. The relationship between Ishvara and Jiva is what is generally taken as a standard. But if you want to understand that, then you need to understand that Jivas are of 2 types. Those who are eternally serving the Supreme Lord and those who are eternally averse to the Supreme Lord. When they become averse to the Supreme Lord, then they get entangled with the Prakriti Kala Karma. That's all.
Where can we get these Dashamula principles in short? Just a list.
We are coming to that. We are right now, in fact, right now in Bhakti Aloka itself, Thakur Bhaktivinoda is giving us that. He himself is giving us that. Second reality, third reality, fourth reality, like that.
Is it available anywhere in the form of a list, brief list for reference or something like that?
Wait. Okay, right now. I will give it to you now. It's all now or never, so let me give it to you now. Okay, this is the one. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had his disciples memorize this also. It's just a summary list.
Okay.
And where do I put it?
Telegram.
Telegram, okay.
Prabhuji, one more small question. This for attentive chanting, you mentioned 2 methods given by Bhaktivinoda.
That's what I remember. That's what I remember.
Yeah, sit down and close your eyes and ears and chant. So closing ears is not really.
Yeah, I also I get puzzled. What I'm trying to do is trying to be in a place where there is least disturbance, some noiseless environment as much as possible. But it is something important. Quality chanting is important. Quantity is also important. Quality is important, quantity is important. Both are important. If we can increase our quality chanting, then that will greatly help us in Krishna consciousness. Nanda Pranam, can you please share the link for downloading the offline Veda-based where the writings of previous acharyas are referring and reading on the screen? You can get it here. You can get it here. There it is. And it is all okay. But just here. Put that also. I didn't share the screen. Okay, it's here. It's here. I've put in the link in Telegram. You should be able to access it. Can you please explain about Varnashrama Dharma, which helps one to get progress in bhakti? Varnashrama Dharma, if you want to understand it, actually you just need to read this portion. Canto. Read this portion, chapters 11 to 15. Chapters 11 to 15. Read everything. Just read everything. If you get a physical book, it will be very good. Just read the chapter summary. Read everything. Read everything. Everything, word meaning, translation, thought forward. Chapters 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Very, very useful. Very useful. Clear understanding.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Which canto, Prabhu?
This is 7th canto.
Okay. 11 to 15 chapters.
Chapters 11 to 15.
Okay. Thank you.
Link
for the general Varnashram or they are for Daivi Varnashram?
Bhagavatam only teaches us that kind of Varnashram by which you can attain the highest goal of Krishna consciousness. The general Varnashram, what is the general Varnashram? When people follow Varnashram Dharma in order not to attain progress in spiritual life, that is, then you get it first, then that is the first level of corruption. Then people corrupt it more. Finally, you end up in some caste system, something. This is the original Asli Mal, the original version. Bhagavata Varnashrama is the Daiva Varnashrama. It is the proper one. Link to Telegram, how to join Telegram, how do we do that? Ask someone who's been, who's in it, and they should be able to give you a link. There are ways to do that. Okay, anything else? Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can you have that link, please? Any one of you? Prabhuji, any one of you have that Telegram group link?